Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. Our show is a production of our non-profit organization, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF, and its affiliated political committee, the Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp, or CRRH. We have an exciting show for you tonight. Mr. Tim Pate is here. There he is, ready to play music and show you some wonderful garden pictures. Don Dupay's here. We'll be taking your phone calls. He's got an editorial for you tonight. I think you'll find interesting. We'll be taking your phone calls as we always do. We'll have another clip from George Cervantes' Grow DVD. And we have hemp news, information about the Million Marijuana March that's coming up next weekend, and more. So stay tuned and let's bring on those infamous dancing cannabis leaves. Okay, our first story tonight comes from Washington, D.C. Data published this week by the University of Mississippi's Marijuana Potency Monitoring Project indicating an increase in the strength of cannabis's primary psychoactive ingredient, THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, is further evidence of the failure of cannabis prohibition here in the United States. The federal government spends billions of dollars each year enforcing criminal marijuana laws, and what does it have to show for it? More marijuana users, greater marijuana availability, and stronger cannabis. However, more potent marijuana is not necessarily more dangerous. Marijuana poses no risk of fatal overdose regardless of its THC content. In addition, studies indicate that cannabis consumers readily distinguish between high and low potency marijuana and moderate their use accordingly, just as alcohol consumers would drink fewer ounces of high-potency bourbon whiskey than they would ounces of low-potency beer. We also want to deny claims that the availability of stronger cannabis is responsible for the rise in the so-called marijuana treatment admissions. The overwhelming majority of young people in the United States referred to treatment for marijuana are there because they violated state cannabis laws, not because they or their loved ones believed they were suffering ill effects from cannabis. In reality, this surge in treatment admissions is an outgrowth of enhanced marijuana law enforcement, not enhanced cannabis potency. And that's what we believe about that story out there. We have a new story out on the medicinal effects of cannabis from London in the United Kingdom. The cannabinoid receptor agonist significantly reduces post-operative pain, according to a new study. The intravenous administration of low doses of the cannabinoid receptor agonist cannabinol significantly reduces post-operative pain compared to placebo, according to clinical trial data published this week in the Israeli biotechnology company Pharmos Pharmaceuticals website. Investigators at London's University College Analgesia Center assessed the efficacy of single doses of the selective CB2 receptor agonist cannabinol on nociceptive pain or nerve pain due to tissue damage in 100 volunteers participating in a double-blind placebo-controlled trial. The researchers reported that the intravenous administration of a 12 milligram dose of cannabinol produced a statistically significant decrease in the patient's overall pain versus placebo. Larger doses of the drug did not result in greater pain relief, the investigators noted. Patients in the trial reported no adverse effects from the drug. The investigators said the findings are sufficient to warrant additional clinical trials on the use of cannabinol to treat various chronic and neuropathic pain conditions. A previous trial found that the intravenous administration of cannabinol reduced both pressure-induced and heat-induced pain in the skin of healthy volunteers. Separate clinical trial data published last year in the journal Anesthesiology reported that low doses of cannabis plant extract significantly relieved post-operative pain in patients who'd undergone knee replacement surgery. Most recently, the February 2007 edition of the journal Neurology reported that inhaled cannabis significantly reduces HIV-associated neuropathy, a painful nerve condition that often goes untreated with standard pain medications. And our last story tonight is about the recent outbreak of hemp laws around the country. There's a number of legislators, including Oregon's and Washington's, that are advocating industrial hemp. And the nation's leading grassroots organization working to give farmers the right to grow non-psychoactive industrial hemp to be made into everything from food and clothing, paper, body care, ointments, biofuel, and even automobile parts, is pleased at the progress of the hemp bills on the state level so far in 2007. The states that have introduced industrial hemp bills this legislative session include California, Hawaii, Idaho, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oregon, South Carolina, that's right, South Carolina, Vermont, and Wisconsin. North Dakota leads the pack with 5 bills introduced in 2007, with 2 of the 5, SB 2099 and HB 1490, having been signed by Governor Joe Hoven. 2 of the bills were resolutions urging Congress to recognize the multiple benefits of industrial hemp and to direct the Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, to differentiate between industrial hemp and cannabis or marijuana. So we're seeing new hemp bills passed and in the legislature around the country. Well, that's the end of our hemp news segment for tonight. We have Tim Pate. How are you doing tonight, Tim?
I am doing just fine, Paul. How are you tonight?
Very, very well.
Right on.
Staying busy.
Oh, me too. It's a busy time of the year.
It is. It is.
Everything's blooming all over the place.
It's the time of sowing,
yes,
planting,
and mowing grass and other things.
and working. Yes, I haven't quite started that, but I need to.
Well, you know, that's the way it is sometimes.
Well, you have a song for us?
I figured I'd do a
show?
little blues just to get us through this night.
All right.
All right.
Sing the blues.
Well, I got the blues for you, so bad I can't see. And I got some news for you. Oh, you put a magic spell over me. So now in the nighttime, there's a dream all alone. Well, I I dream you're by my side every night. But when the daylight comes, oh, you know we're in sight. So then in the daytime, there's a dream all of you. Well, I wonder what that is with me? It's a land tortoise. His name is Buddy. dream you're by my side every night. But when the daylight comes, oh, it's nowhere in sight. So then in the daytime, I dream of you, and I get the blues. I got the blues for you, so bad I can't see. And I got some blues for you. Oh, you could come over here and make a monkey out of me. Oh, so now in the nighttime, as I dream all of you, well, I get the blues. Yeah, I get the blues. Oh, yeah. My friend Buddy, he's been I've never had a turtle come around behind me before like that. That was really cool. I was watching in the monitor, and it was like,
I'm glad
that
you
was
explained
got
what
the
that was.
African
I thought it was
tortoise.
the biggest spider mite I've ever seen.
that's a spider mite. All our crops are in trouble.
It's Buddy's poop.
I understand
The
Buddy's
plants
poop is
love
really good for plants.
Buddy's poop. It's amazing.
Why not?
It's just they thrive on it. That reptilian, dinosaur age things go in there. I don't know. Well, welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. How are you doing this week, Don?
Doing good, Paul.
Is everything going well in your world?
Going well in my world, yes.
Good, good. We are taking your calls tonight. It is the 27th of April, 2007, Friday night. And if you're watching on the 27th of April, then you can call this show at that number that's there on your screen. It's 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking your calls right up to the top of the hour. And so we've had a couple of different events this week with, the news that the new deadly marijuana is too strong for us and it's going to kill us all and send us into treatment facilities in the emergency room. That's the news that's out there this week on CNN. Pot 2.0, I think they're calling it. It's growing stronger. But, we just use a little bit less is what it is. It's not deadly. So we have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
I have a question and comment.
Right
the question is, I'm coming up for renewal soon, and I have IBS, and with a condition like that, it's like it doesn't go away. If anything, all you can do is control it. So,
well, I think, if they asked me to set the rules, I would have patients coming in to get these things renewed every 5 years for chronic conditions like IBS. But, I don't have much of a say in the legislature individually. As a group, we can lobby that way, but we have to be aware that we're going up against law enforcement.
Right.
Law enforcement doesn't. A lot of them don't like this.
I was just wondering if, as far as the medical documentation, because I brought some in last year, but nothing's changed in the meantime.
Right.
So it's like
I think that would be fine. It's hard for me. And I wouldn't want to go into the details of your case here on live television or anything, but I think that's fine. I know most of the doctors require things that are like 3 years old or less, and if you just brought it in last year, it's probably pretty new. I just recommend, you continue seeing your other physicians, and you have to go in once a year to keep your cannabis card active if that's the route you're going, unless you can get your other doctors to participate in the program.
Right.
Whether you want to do that or not. If you don't, continue to go to these other doctors, but cannabis specialists want you to continue your other means of treatment. They don't want you to exclusively rely on cannabis. You have to continue receiving standard medical care.
Right. And then the comment is instead of if someone has the means to do like multiple plants, instead of doing clones, isn't it better to go ahead and just have them seed, and then because then you get hundreds of seeds, which last a lot longer, and they're more stable.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to keep seeds going if you want to stop growing for a while. Obviously, seeds are going to store where clones are going to have to be taken care of. So there is that advantage. Seeds also have diversity, so if you want to try something new, that's a good thing. One of the advantages of clones, though, is they can go directly into flower, where seeds have to vegetate a longer period of time before they're ready to start flowering.
Right.
Also, with a clone, you know what you've got. It's kind of like the old bird in the hand versus two in the bush, where with a seed, you might have something better or you might not. There's a natural variation, even in the same cross. I mean, you can look at, people and see how various kids look different from the same parents, and the same thing is true with other offspring of other species like cannabis.
Well, and the other thing about clones is how many generations, so to speak, of clones can occur. Like, can you?
I've known people who've cloned the same plant for over 20 years, and I haven't seen any degradation. I've heard a lot of other people say there is degradation, but I haven't seen it myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well,
there's a book out there by Michael Pollan called The Botany of Desire that says, it's not really us that's manipulating the cannabis, it's the cannabis that's manipulating us to make us take care of it and to raise it and spread it all around the world and take good care of it, and here we clone it and keep it alive,
By the way, one of the hardest things that for me to ever do is actually harvest, because here you've got this plant that you've lovingly been caring for and so on, and then when it comes to harvest, and if you're not putting it to seed, then it's like the whole plant's life is useless.
Right. Or if you have clones going of it, the plant's still alive and it's clones,
Yeah. Well,
you're not really killing it if you have a clone of it. I don't know if the plant knows that or not, but some people hold that it does. Recently reread the book The Secret Life of Plants, which I read back in the 70s when I was a teenager. And there's a lot of interesting things in there about how plants know what we're thinking and can relate to it, and we can test it. And
definitely
scientifically.
Yeah, I think if someone seriously grows cannabis for the right reasons, there's definitely a spiritual connection there.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thanks a lot for your show and everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for your call.
Good night.
It's great. We have a studio audience member who has a question. Hi, studio audience member.
Hi, Paul, Don.
Hey.
I had a couple of questions here regarding your statement earlier about this killer weed. How many people have died from this?
No one has ever died from cannabis. So
where can I get some of
what the government says is that more of us are going into treatment and more of us are going into the emergency room. And neither one of those are true. If you look at the actual facts, it's one of those lying with statistics kind of things. More of us are going to treatment because the courts are ordering more teenagers into treatment. And so, they're cracking down with drug tests and more surveillance. And so more of them are getting caught and they're going to treatment because the judge says you have to.
I figured those emergency room visits because they overate or something.
Yeah, usually it's something else. It's something else. And they test them and say, oh, this person had marijuana in their system too, so therefore their heart attack or their whatever it was a result of that. But,
big numbers.
If they have alcohol in their system, it's not the alcohol that gets blamed, it's the marijuana. Just because that's the way the statistics, they want to bring it out that way.
Well, I think they should enter some of that in the cannabis cup. Thank you, Paul.
It's a good idea. Good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we got a little bit of a show and tell this week. Maybe I can get camera 2 to close in. This is it has an insert with it that actually is in 13 different languages. It's got everything from Yiddish and Chinese and Japanese to Polish and Bohemian, Hungarian and Swedish on here. And it starts out, this contains no opium or opium derivatives. Cannabis americana is used to produce the proper sedative effect. It's a methylated cough balsam. It's actually full It's kind of nifty, from 1912. A mentholated cough balsam that contains cannabis, and says infants under 1 year of age should only use 5 to 10 drops. And so if you're an adult, 1 to 2 teaspoonfuls. Repeat every 2 to 3 hours until you're relieved. But there it is, a cough medicine. We have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hello.
Hey.
My name's Dave. How you guys doing tonight?
Hey, Dave, you're not here.
I'm not here. I must be here.
But you're there. How are you?
Good.
That was a joke. It wasn't a very good one, but so.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. Next weekend during the march, I want to have my young son with me. He's going to be 7 years old. Would it be a good thing to take him along on that, or should I think of something else to do for the weekend?
You know, I would leave that at your discretion. I've seen parents with children there. I haven't seen any negative repercussions. It's something that I don't think will hurt. It shows that, you know, we're cutting across all different socioeconomic classes. You know, we're good people. We're ready to take good care of our kids. So I'll leave that to your discretion. I don't really have an opinion one way or another on that.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you. I have seen. Didn't you see people with kids there last year?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know some of our camera people and staff people have been brought kids down there. So it would be, you know, there's no dogs and no smoking allowed at this event. So there won't be any public consumption of cannabis. I know in years past the city has allowed, and we have emails from the city where they allow patients to use medical cannabis on site at the Million Marijuana March as long as they're out of sight and out of a public place. And so back in 2002, there's a letter from the city that says that patients can have a private place to medicate during a public event. However, that brings us back to us trying to get our park permit. The Parks Department says, no, we were wrong. We could not have a private medication tent at our hemp stock festival. But at the same time, we have a letter from the city from 2002 saying we can have a private place for medical patients to get their medication out of sight of the public. So we want to urge our viewers out there to come down to City Hall and write a letter to city commissioners and the mayor, Tom Potter of Portland, urging them to order the Parks Department to issue a permit. Right now, the Parks Department is saying they won't issue a permit for this year's Hemp Stock Festival, and we're going to fight that. So at 9:30 on Wednesday morning, May the 9th, we'll be down there in City Hall at the City Council meeting. We're scheduled to have several speakers, and public support would be good, and letters to the mayor, calls to the mayor, and calls to the city commissioners, especially Dan Saltzman, who's the commissioner in charge of parks. So once again, we're told we can't have our Hemp Stock Festival because we set up a tent to allow medical patients to use cannabis in a private area. You know, these patients have to keep using cannabis. This is one of the few things they can come to because there is a place where they can medicate out of public view, and that's one of the requirements. So the Parks Department says that us setting up that tent and allowing that was wrong. But at the same time, we have a letter from the city from 2002 where they said it was okay. So how did it change in the intervening 4 years from being okay in 2002 but not okay in 2006?
The city speaks with forked tongue.
Yep, the city speaks with forked tongue. So we need to urge you to, if you're in Portland, to write your city council people and the mayor and tell them to allow the Hemp Stock Festival to go forward and issue that city permit and be down at the city council hearing. That's Wednesday, May the 9th at 9:30 a.m. in City Hall, right downtown. We have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi. I was calling in regards to my my back condition. And I was wondering if you could tell me. I had two questions really.
Go right ahead.
I had an on-the-job back injury, and I'm currently under doctor's care. I have been for the last 2 months, and they're prescribing me all kinds of narcotics for this thing.
So the duration of this injury is just 2 months ago. Is that correct?
just 2 months ago, and I'm not yet considered medically stationary.
Yeah.
So my question is that a requirement in order to get a medical marijuana card?
Well, yeah, a medical marijuana card is for chronic severe pain.
Very, very
2 months
bad.
Doesn't quite, 2 months is a long time. If you can show some sort of degenerative changes in your spine, obviously those kinds of things aren't going to go away. And I don't know if you've had that x-rayed. Have you had it x-rayed?
One of the things that came up in the x-ray was that I do have arthritis in my spine.
Uh-huh. Well, that along with your injury might be sufficient to qualify. I can't really say. You'd have to ask a doctor. I'm not medically trained myself.
Well, on your doctor referral, do you know anybody, do you have doctors that take workers' comp insurance?
No, workers' comp insurance doesn't pay medical marijuana specialists, unfortunately.
Oh, darn.
So,
see, that would have been...
but it's a reasonable annual cost, and it has a sliding scale. I know all the doctors who recommend medical marijuana throughout the western United States that we refer people to have a sliding scale for low-income people as well.
Great. How do I hook up with the referral, then?
In the Portland area, you'd call our number. It's 503-235-4606. I don't know if you can see it there, right under that paper. 503-235-4606. And in Seattle, the Seattle number is 206-878-1701. That's 206-878-1701.
I see him.
For our people in Denver, the Denver number is 303-403-9996. It's 303-403-9996. And if you're in Oregon, Washington, California, Hawaii, or Colorado, and coming soon to Nevada, then we have a toll-free number. And the toll-free number is 1-800-723-0188. I bet that's a lot more numbers than you really wanted, though.
Yes, sir. I wrote the 503 one down. Hey, I also wanted to say I've been watching you guys for a while. I love the show, and I love what you're doing. And I hope Mr. Dupree gets another chance to run for sheriff again. I'd certainly vote for him.
That'll be interesting.
Thank you.
When are we running again? I mean, it's, 3 years away?
Well, he just started. He's just finishing his first year.
We have a question from a studio audience member. Hello, studio audience member.
Hello, Paul. Hello, Don.
Hey.
When people are making these phone calls to the city council, it would perhaps be helpful if they asked that the city council members ask that any allegations against hemp stock be supported by documentation. I understand that staff have looked into what's involved, and because of time constraints, it's going to take a request from that level to have the records available in time for the hearing. So, folks, call the city council, tell them that you'd like the allegations against hemp stock that were used to deny the permits in the first place documented at the meeting.
Yeah, and the main thing they're saying is that we allowed a tent to be used by medical patients so they could medicate out of public view. And they're saying that that wasn't allowed. But like I said, we've come up with an email from the city to Madeline Martinez in just 4 years before where they said it was fine to have a private location for patients to medicate. And so there's a dichotomy there. The one side says it's fine, the other side says, oh, you did it, and so you don't get your permit anymore. I think the real thing is the federal government came in, and according to one of Councilman Salzman's staffers, he had several DEA agents come in and say what a terrible thing we were doing with our Hemp Stock Festival. However, all of us who were there thought it was a beautiful, peaceful, wonderful thing. And so time will tell. But we're going to have it one way or another. And if the city council doesn't go along, we'll go into the courts and try to get the court to order that forward. But it will go on for certain. We have another caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Oh, please hang up and try again.
Oh, please hang up and try again. This is your chance to call through. Well, we have a film clip we're going to be running from the DVD by George Cervantes. George Cervantes used to own a little horticulture store here in Portland and wrote a book way back in 1984, I think it was, or 83. It's been through several revisions. It's gotten bigger. It's got more pictures. And so, we ready to run that? Okay, here's George Cervantes.
The buds take about, well, anywhere from 5 to 15 days to dry, depending upon humidity and temperature. Humidity should be somewhere between 50 and 60%, and the temperature somewhere between 65 and 85 degrees. Now let's take this harvested female into our drying teepee, where we've got a little harvest party going on.
Manicuring is easiest immediately after harvest, when leaves are still soft and supple. Trimming leaves immediately will also speed drying. Use a small pair of trimming scissors with small blades capable of accessing hard-to-reach leaf petioles and snipping them off at the stem. Manicure over a fine silk screen or glass table to collect fallen resin glands, which can be smoked immediately or pressed into blocks of hash. Budget enough time to harvest and manicure your crop, so you won't have to leave the job half-finished. Properly manicuring 1 pound takes from 4 to 6 hours by hand with scissors and 1 to 2 hours when using an automatic trimmer. Beginners should plan on slightly more time until they get the hang of it.
What we need to do first is trim off these great big shade leaves. I always like to take them off right here at the base of the stem.
If you fail to remove the stem, it shrivels and dies, attracting moisture that can in turn attract mold.
Next, I'll go through and trim them on the outside. Different buds can be trimmed differently. These Afghanis are probably the easiest to trim. And then the sativas are like a lot more difficult to trim because they've got many more leaves and the buds are shaped differently. By trimming it up, we retain the bud that has the most resin, the mind-bending stuff, and get rid of the leaf, such as this one. But remember, don't throw them away because we're going to make hash with them later. But notice how I have to get in between these buds and trim that leaf right out of there, and then shake it away. And then once I trim this off and clean the bud up, then I can hang them individually, hang branches this size or larger. This bud here probably weighs 10 grams, maybe 12 grams right now. Well, when it's dry, it's going to weigh 75% less. In fact, that's the way you can tell when your plants are dry. There we go. That bud's ready to dry.
Fresh green marijuana is not very potent. After harvest, it must dry before smoking.
What we've done so far is we've cut the crop, we've harvested it, we've trimmed it up or manicured it very closely to the bud. Now we've got to hang it to dry it.
When dried relatively slowly, over 5 to 7 days, moisture evaporates evenly into the air, yielding uniformly dry buds with minimal THC decomposition.
Do not dry your dope too fast. Do not turn the fan directly on it. Do not dry it in 2 or 3 days. Let it go at least 5 to 7 days, and it will become evenly dry. That's what we're looking for, even dryness.
Inspect drying buds daily for any signs of fungus, mold, and spider mites.
What we'll do is we'll leave this hanging for the next week, maybe 10 days even, and when it's dry enough for the stems to break instead of fold like this, they'll clearly break and crack. Cut a branch off and bend it like this, and if it snaps, that means it's dry enough to start the curing process. Let's try that again. Let's see if this branch snaps out here at this level. Yes, it does.
Curing allows buds to dry sufficiently to prevent mold from growing even if they are stored for a long time. Cut stems into manageable lengths and place them in an airtight glass container. Gently pack as many buds into the container as possible without damaging them. Leave the containers in a cool, dry, dark place. Open the container for a few minutes, 2 to 4 times a day, to let excess moisture escape, carefully turning them in the container so that different sides are exposed to air. Buds should be totally dry in a few days to 2 weeks. Well-cured buds have an even glow when burned, smoke smooth, and taste great.
Damn, this is good dope.
There's George Cervantes giving us his words of wisdom there. I personally try not to say the word dope or pot. You know, I think they're derogatory. I don't even like marijuana, really, because it's racist. I like cannabis, hemp. And we have some nice flowering tops that Buddy the Turtle's dung has done it to. These are, I don't know if we can get any close-ups on that little flower. It's pretty good smelling. Once again, we wish we had smell-o-vision for you viewers out there, because we have a real wonderful aroma right here, right now. I guess we have a caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show. Hello. No? Well, we tried, you know. You got an editorial for us, Don?
I do.
Want to launch into that?
I want to talk a little bit about the state medical garden. And several of my fellow hemp activists, including Paul, have talked about and pushed for a state-run medical garden. And at first, it might seem like a good idea, warm and fuzzy even, when the state would grow your medicine and send it to you in the mail. That's similar to the now defunct, almost defunct federal program, and I say defunct because most of the patients are dying out. There's a number of problems with the idea of a state medical garden, and the first one is the state doesn't really want to do it. From the state's point of view, they would seem to have to grow the medicine and get it to the patients at a low cost, somewhere I would hope around $50 an ounce. Not much room for a tax there, not much room for the state to maneuver. So the first problem I see is what's in it for the state. Second problem is the proponents of state garden hoped that Attorney General Hardy Myers would then be willing to face down the feds if it came to the issue of state rights or versus federal interference. To be blunt about it, the Attorney General is a old white guy that must feel like he's being pushed into something he doesn't really want to do. And if you're looking for an attorney that's willing to face down the feds, you'd want a young, marijuana-using activist with fire in his belly and the Constitution on his tongue. He needs to be willing to stare down the feds and say, back off, or whatever other four-letter word you want to put in there. And that man doesn't live in Oregon today. Third problem is learning how to grow marijuana. I've personally grown my own medicine for about 5 years, and I'm still learning. My point is, we all know that there's a serious learning curve. I don't care how many degrees you have in horticulture, who's going to show the state gardener how to grow the medicine? One of my patients is a master gardener from California. She says, and I quote, "Growing marijuana for medicine is not like growing anything else I've ever grown, and I've been a professional horticulturist for 30 years." Unquote. We patients don't have time to teach a professor to grow medicine, and I presume that the college farm would be manned by, well, college students. College students and a marijuana farm doesn't sound like a good idea to me. Besides, anybody with a razor blade and a plastic baggie with some water in it's going to snag your strain in a couple of seconds and be gone with it. The University of Washington has grown marijuana for whatever research they do for a long time, and I had a stolen UW cutting way back in 1989. I have a UW cutting growing in my garden now. My point is, there's no security there. And if you're using state gardens as an example, the University of Oxford in Mississippi grows the worst dirt weed around. Makes you wonder, though, at the college farm, where the best buds do go. Where do the best buds go? To the highest bidder? Probably.
To the grower?
Probably the highest bidder, I'd think. These state gardens are not a good idea from a security point of view or a quality point of view. What will work? Well, not the four-person only growing proposition either, because that's a cottage industry approach to a mass market. There are about 15,000 medical marijuana patients, and they're all looking for medicine. I think the best approach is to license and tax existing growers and then let the market determine what the cost of the medication will be, because the farmer grower is always going to have to get paid. So if I'm going to be a state grower or a state farmer, I'm going to say to the state, license me, tax the product if you must, and then get the patient their medicine. If my medicine is not the best, they will simply go to the dispensary down the street who has better medicine, and the market will determine what's going on. That's the way I see it tonight, right down here on Hemp Street.
All right. Thank you, Don. There's some buds right here. We have Madeline Martinez on the phone. Hello, Madeline.
Hi, Paul, and hi, Don. How are you?
Hello, Madeline.
Thanks so much. I just want to follow up and rebut your statements a little bit there on the state garden. We think that the state garden would stop the exploitation, as what's going on in California, where it's $10 to $15 a gram.
Yeah, I went to San Francisco.
That's highway robbery.
I went to San Francisco.
I would really not like to see that kind of California mode where the patients are at the mercy of the exploiters, the profiteers. So just to follow up on that, who's going to be growing it, and how are we going to know how good it is? So there's my rebuttal. I think the state garden is the most fabulous idea around, better than the racketeers or the mob out in the street growing it for us. But I'm calling about the Million Marijuana March, which is next Saturday, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow,
May 5th.
At Pioneer Courthouse Square. We gather at 11 a.m. and we march at high noon.
Right, and that's right in downtown Portland. It's, what, about a mile altogether, the march?
Right, it's about a mile, and we've actually got the march all mapped out on our website, and that's www.ornorml.org.
Right, and so the state garden proposal is out there right now with Senate Bill 767, right?
That's correct,
and
Paul.
you did a great job in getting that introduced, but right now it's bottled up in committee.
It is bottled up in committee. You know, what it's done is there's so many discriminatory bills and such a negative atmosphere against medical marijuana patients at the legislature this year.
Right.
What's happened, Paul, is our program is running the best running program in the nation, and actually the DEA and many others are very upset about it.
Yeah, they're
what
coming in
and success.
And watching us
now.
now.
Is out of control.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, it is bottled up, and what we're going to do is we are making some phone calls, some slam calls, and we're going to write a bunch of because letters. And I'd like to encourage all of your viewers, you know, if you're looking for marijuana, you don't want to go to the black market. And if we get dispensaries from like the California model, it's just like being on the black market. So why bother?
It's even worse. You know, I went down to San Francisco a week ago Monday, and it was for a half ounce. They wanted $250. It was outrageous.
And that's exactly what's going to happen if those California models come here, and they're going to hurt us, and they're going to bring the DEA stormtroopers on our patients. And that's something that I personally, or Oregon Normal, wouldn't want to be part of. When the news comes out and patients are in handcuffs, I think we're going to look at it a lot differently.
You just got
money
back.
Talks and bullshit walks, and I just can't see it.
You just got back from Washington, D.C., and you went
I did.
to
I just got back from the great workshop by MPP.
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Activism training.
Yeah, and so is there any other news or anything else you'd like to tell us about what went on there?
Well, there is some news that they do want to try to do an initiative for a dispensary type, here in Oregon.
Kind of on the old ballot measure, what was it, 57 or that failed a couple of years ago?
It was 33 that failed.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah, they want to do the same thing. They want to use the Minnesota model, the template for the so-called nod, wink, non-profit dispensaries.
Right.
And you know who's going to be profiting, right?
Well,
the profiteers. People are going to be choosing between dinner, rent, and marijuana or pharmaceuticals. That's what's really going to happen.
Yeah.
And right now, unfortunately, our patients can't afford that model.
Now, when you were back at the Washington, D.C. thing, I understand Russ Belville kicked off his first show on Air America.
He did.
So he's now got a weekly show. I heard an ad for it today on the local Air America station. So he and you are going to come on the show next week, right?
Yeah, he's
just before the march.
Tomorrow from 9 to 11, he'll be on KPOJ.
And that's the local Air America station. I guess other Air America people who are watching in other cities can try to find their local Air America affiliate and tune into that.
Yeah, you can probably just go on the radio and look for KPOJ in your area, and you'll find it, or Air America. It's actually the Jones Radio Network that he's working for.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it's
They're
very
just affiliated with Air
America. One of our own
America.
people on one of the bigger talk radios.
Right. Well, I look forward to having you in here
and
next
please
week, and I'm
just
glad we
remind
had you
your
there
viewers to be there.
to talk about the state dispensary model as opposed to the private dispensary model.
Right, and as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to be on your show next Friday, so we can certainly talk about it a lot then.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Okay,
and so we want to
thank
remind
you
our
so
viewers that we're going to have the Million Marijuana March here in Portland. If you're watching next Saturday on May the 5th, you want to be there by 11. The march starts right at noon, so if you're a minute late, you missed it until it gets back, which takes, what, about 25, 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, we've gone a little bit further because there's some construction going on downtown Portland, but we have a full police escort. We want to remind everybody, no dogs, no drugs, and no alcohol. And we want to behave ourselves. And, you know, we're going to have los marihuanos straight from Las Vegas.
That's exciting. They are great.
They are fabulous.
I literally like Mr. Weed Man.
It and tax it.
Give me your weed. Those guys are great.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for your time, Paul. Enjoy your show, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow or soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Good night.
Good night. So we have a studio audience question here. Hello.
Greeting, Paul, and
Hey.
your friend up on the panel. Yeah, you know, I had chronic pain for like 15 to 20 years, and I went to different doctors for medication to help stop the ailing of the pain. And everywhere I went to different doctors, they would give me the same thing, and they would say the same thing, and everything they gave me, it didn't heal me up, it didn't cure me. And so I told them, one friend came to me and said, have them put you on hemp. He said, believe me, it will release the pain. I said, well, this is what doctors are for. They give you pain from the pharmaceutical to make the pain go away. He said, yeah, but it doesn't work. So I tried it for years and years. So finally I tried the marijuana hemp. And believe me, after I smoked it, it released the pain. And I said, whoa, why they don't want this thing to be legalized? Because maybe you might be cutting some dollars out of somebody's pocket.
That's it. It's all about money.
So they know this thing here from the 30s to the 20s, that people have been using this thing ever since we've been over here, and they know it's good for healing. It's also in the Bible. It's good for healing, spiritual, your soul, your mind, your body. But they want to fill us up with all those pharmaceuticals, and I realize they need a job too. But at the same time, everybody has to have a job. And if we all work together.
The farmers need a job.
Yes.
And, you know, this will put the energy market back in the hands of the farmers. I really think the real reason the marijuana is illegal is because an acre of hemp for seed oil will make 300 gallons of oil. And the byproduct of that 300 gallons of oil is 3 tons of high-protein hemp seed meal. You take it produces about 4 tons of hemp seed per acre, according to an article out of Notre Dame back in '75 called The Feral Hemp Fields of Southern Illinois. And so you take that 4 tons, you press it, and what's left over is 3 tons of high-protein hemp seed meal and 300 gallons of oil. Now, the next most productive seed oil crops are canola, sunflower seeds, and soybeans. Each of those produces about 100 to 120 gallons of oil per acre. Hemp produces roughly 3 times more than that. Therefore, it's going to be a lot cheaper. In addition to the food byproduct from the oil, there's also the fiber byproduct. The bast and the herd fiber can be made into canvas, rope, lace, linen, paper, building materials. Out of the oil, you can make plastics. It's really a miracle crop, and I think that's why we don't have it. The petrochemical industries realized that they had to demonize hemp, and so they created the misinformation campaign we know as Reefer Madness that made it illegal based on racist misinformation. That's why we have the Hispanic racist term marijuana, which came from a Revolutionary War Mexican song. But that's it. It's money, and it's not about marijuana. It's about the continued centralization of economic and political control, and that's what we're fighting here. Put the economy back in the hands of the local farmers and the local groups and out of the hands of these big multinational corporations. So thanks for your question.
So I advise everyone, May the 5th, with their mother and father, sister and brother, get down there to that court place down there, and let's march on behalf of this cannabis, because we need it for ourselves. We need it for the sick people. Because the medicine for the doctor, pharmaceutical, they don't do the work all the time, and we know this. So let's open the doors up for everybody can have some love. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks for your comment there. We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi.
Howdy.
You guys were talking about the state dispensary and, these
private dispensaries and
yes.
initiatives and legislative bills and all that stuff.
Yes. Well, I'm a patient in Oregon that has no income. I'm pending SSI and SSD.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a good friend who is, a caregiver, farmer, as you say. I want to know how come the THC Foundation doesn't have like a little, like even the state, when they give you your license, they reduce it if you're on the Oregon Health Plan from $100 to $20. How come the THC Foundation doesn't have something like that, say, for instance, when it's...
Well, it does. All of the doctors who help with the THC Foundation, they have a standard rate and a cut discount rate that is at least 35 and 45% lower than the full rate. So they do have a sliding scale, and they even allow patients who can't afford that to get in at an even lower rate. So
is that right?
We do,
okay.
And all the doctors have a sliding scale.
Okay, I'll keep that up because my renewal is coming up. Also, as far as...
and in fact, that fee is lower than that of any other group out there.
Is it?
This is a cable access show, so we can't really talk about economics and all of that. But I can say that the fee that the doctors we refer patients to is lower than any other fee, and it goes down even lower than that for low-income patients, and it has on a sliding scale basis.
Okay. Is there a sliding scale basis for, like, medicine anywhere for any caregivers?
That's something that the doctors can't really deal with, and so it's something that, it gets really cheap if you can put a plant outdoors and grow it and harvest it in October, and that's real low cost.
Right.
You don't have to buy any lights, and that's the cheapest way to go.
Yeah.
We also help, our foundation helps about 30 indigent patients as a caregiver. We also donate to a lot of other organizations out there. We even give $500 a month to UNICEF to pay for AIDS orphans in Africa.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Bye. Okay, we also have some classes out there here in the Portland area and coming soon to Denver and Seattle. We have a schedule we might put up there, but I think the classes are now coming every Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So there's a beginning cultivating class, there's outdoor gardening, there's advanced gardening, ministering medical marijuana, making medicinal grade hash, understanding the law. I think that schedule's a little outdated, but call our office for a little bit more information.
Paul, I think that those of us who grow are the only ones that do realize how much medicine we really do give away.
Yeah.
We all give away a lot of medicine because simply you have to.
Yeah.
There are people who just need it and can't afford it.
That's right.
So we don't talk about it, but we do it.
I give it all away. That's what we do. We give it all away. And it's a whole new paradigm. It's not for cash. And then all these doctors who are out there are working at a fraction of what they work for in their professional lives. And there are sliding scales available. If you're out there and you have chronic pain, chronic nausea, AIDS, cancer, glaucoma, hepatitis, then there are doctors who are ready to help you. And if you're low income, there's a sliding scale. There's a list of some of the conditions. If you're in the Portland area, you can call for a physician referral at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. You can also call these numbers if you're interested in getting involved in the movement to end adult marijuana prohibition and restore industrial hemp. And for that doctor's referral, again, it's 503-235-4606. Up in Seattle, the Seattle number is 206-878-1701. That's 206-878-1701. If you're in Denver, watching this show up there on Tuesday or Thursday night at 11 p.m. on cable channel 52, then you can call that other number there on your screen. It's 303-403-2333. 9996. That's 303-403-9996. If you're outside of the Portland, Seattle, and Denver area, you can call our toll-free number at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. Just want to make a little announcement. Some of our long-term viewers know that Dr. Todd McArea has appeared on this show several times, and he's been pretty ill lately, and so the THC Foundation has picked up his practice and will be moving into the San Francisco area there in carrying on Dr. Todd's legacy there in the East Bay area. Also, we have announced in the past here on the show a couple weeks ago how we'd received a federal subpoena seeking the records of 14 of our patients. They asked for 17 patients' records, but we only had 14 of them in our files. Not only are we fighting that, won't be turning those over, and I'm facing some action perhaps for making it public, because you're not supposed to make these things public, but we've had the support from the ACLU, and we have a legal team working on it. Not only our own attorney, the THCF's attorney, Ann Whitty, but also Graham Boyd, who represented Dr. Conant in the United States Supreme Court and got the ruling protecting doctors and placing an injunction against the Drug Enforcement Administration from bothering doctors in their clinics. And so Graham Boyd of the National Office of the ACLU and Allison Chin Holcomb of the Washington ACLU Marijuana Project have joined our attorney Ann Whitty. We now have a legal team fighting those subpoenas. We're prepared to take it all the way to the Supreme Court on that, and if I get charged with contempt of court, then we'll fight that too. So there you have it. The battle continues. We're glad to do it. And we want to enlist you to come down to the City Council here in Portland and write letters, to contact Mayor Tom Potter and tell him to support the Hemp Stock Festival that we want to have on September 8th and 9th, and to force the city to issue a permit for that. And we'll talk more about that next week as well. Is there anything you want to say in closing here, Don?
It's been an interesting week, Paul. Very interesting week. And I respect everybody's opinion, but I have a right to my own.
That's right. You do. You do. And so we're want to urge you to tune in next week. We'll go out on the lovely music, Mr. Tim Pate, with some lovely images from the THCF Medicinal Gardens. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Good night.